All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
Going on.
What's going on?
I tried to build off the momentum of the big win last night with the Maple Leafs. Coming up to my place in Collingwood, I was on the 400. I saw a pickup truck with a flag on the back window, Maple Leafs. I said, this guy's probably really fired up. And there's a few moments in life where you think you're kind of famous and the guy's going to look over. When I give a thumbs up, he's going to see who it is and he's going to give a thumbs up back. I gave him the thumbs up, and he went middle bird back.
I love that attitude.
I know, but I was like, let's keep this train rolling. Let's give him the thumbs up and Leaf spirit and la, la, la. And it was a middle bird, and see you later.
All good. Hey, listen, it's Friday into May, man.
Yeah.
You're going up to 400. Those are prison
But
rules.
I think what he thought I was doing was being like,
mocking
nice
him.
Driving guy, like
Yeah.
you're a loser. And I was just like, I got to take Hayes' advice, because that's the second time in the last week that I gave a thumbs up to like a Leafs flag car person. And both times they're like, what do you like?
It's karma.
No.
It's karma for your behavior in Costco. That guy came up to you and you were like, hey, knock it off with the beard talk. Or what did he say?
That's right.
He goes, hey, your beard's
very
white,
white.
eh? And I'm,
Yeah, that's the
You know what?
equivalent.
That's the equivalent of the beard's white. This guy's like, why is this guy waving at me on the road? He
I
handed you
just
the
said I'm
O'Doyle.
tapping out. I'm all out. I will not.
You're right,
I
though.
got to wait for them to come to me now, but unfortunately, it's going to be beard comments.
Yeah, you're not going to get the thumbs up in response. You're going to get, where's the beard or what's up with the beard. But look at us, no beard. We didn't play Major League on the way in, right? That's all good now, Noodles. We played Major League after Game 3, but it's all good because the Leafs found a way to be victorious in the end. And all of a sudden, look at us. You know, twice in 3 years, we're teeing up a second round.
Oh, are we ever? And
it.
all the chatter today that I got and the comments that I got, it was nothing of, and I guess this is just life and sports. Nothing of, hey, great series, you know, they got it done, Stolarz, whatever, Matthews, big boys. It was like, what are the chances against Florida? It directly shifted right to Florida.
Yes,
with
it did.
What are the chances?
It
and I
did
guess
quickly.
that's just, that's fandom, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it says something about the approach to this series, where I do think there's a very different feeling today from that of 2 years ago. When they beat Tampa, at that point, the belief was, all right, the monkey's off their back. Look out, bring on Florida, bring on whoever. Now they're going to respond and they're going to take off. I think based on what happened in that second round is possibly pumping the brakes on that celebration. But I also think, when you really, once you get through it, it's easier to look back and analyze. And, players always talk about this, management types, that you got to stay even keel, you got to stay objective. They had a 3-0 lead in the series. And at that point, you have to win. You're supposed to win. I think a lot of people believed they would win once they got up 3-0. It got dicey there after Game 5. But to their
they won the
credit,
division. They're playing a wild card team.
Yeah, you got to
go
win
up
that
3
series.
You got to win that series.
That's simple.
But I think,
you have to win. To their credit, they did that.
Yeah, and to Ottawa's credit, we, as people that talk about the Leafs on a daily basis, we got hyper-focused, and it was natural, and we're just dealing with stats. But I think during the series, all we did was like, okay, the core four, they can't score. I think it took away from how well Ottawa played a little bit. Like, Ottawa played their asses off, man. Like, they played hard, and they defended, and they got a quality goaltender back there, and winning's hard. So I think during our focus on the Maple Leaf players and what they were not doing, we never really kind of gave some props to Ottawa for how well they played. That was a tight series, man. Although we just talked about the Leafs being the team that won the division, playing against a wild card team, they played their asses off. And they, like, how many overtime? 3 overtime games, 1 goal games.
Last night it's 2-2 with 6 minutes to play.
Man. I think, you know what, you're right. Like, there's lots of different ways we can look at it, guys, but I thought the games were pretty damn entertaining. Like, they were good. It was good. It was good hockey. Yes, the first game was an outlier, but outside of that, it was good, hard-fought playoff hockey. Not so much lead changes as much as some unique challenges throughout it. And in the playoffs, it's rare that you just see a complete drubbing and that's it type of thing. You are going to see a lot of different things. I said this before. If we would have said, truth serum, what do you believe this is? Well, if it's Leafs in 6, Leafs in 7. Now, it didn't. I think what happened is the way they arrived at it was the most unique thing.
Right.
So that's what made everyone go, what the hell's going on here? But, in the end, if Ottawa wins that first overtime game, that makes it 2-1, and then it looks different and how you arrive at Leafs in 6. But there was some adversity. I think you did see, when you're giving flowers to Ottawa, you did see some growth. You did see, when you don't watch that team nightly, I do, but other people don't. You're like, man, they got some pretty damn good players there, some guys to build, and that's a great thing. And when they go to pick up the pieces or sort of rebuild or take a look at a forensic audit this offseason, they're going to see where they felt like they came up short, guys that can have growth, all of that type of stuff. And then here, when we're doing, hey, we're heading into the second round, you can take a look at, okay, there's some growth here, or, guys stepped up. The Pacioretty thing, that was a really great storyline the last couple days, the last couple games, him being inserted. That's a coach's gut feel that ended up paying off. The guy gets the game-winning goal
Big
in
time.
the series, right?
Big time.
Helped the turnover on Nylander's goal. Pacioretty, he's been there, done that, veteran guy. You could talk about Brad Treliving, giving him some flowers, because this is a guy that kind of brought him in kind of under the radar. Remember, there was whispers in the offseason, like, here Pacioretty's kind of coming in and giving a workout for them, and
I think it was a PTO.
He
right?
was
like
a PTO.
Wink,
He
wink,
was
nudge, nudge.
Exactly. Like, come in, let's see if you can still play. That's really what it was, because the last 3 years hasn't been great, and it doesn't start the playoffs. Like, there's some great storylines, and if you look at it,
let me ask you two guys this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you could say, if that negotiation was going on, Hayes, and the player Pacioretty said to you, and you were Tree, I'll give you the game-winning goal in Game 6 in the first round of the playoffs, what would you pay him for it?
Well, you got to. They have no money.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
you
I'm
gotta
just
pay
saying, if you could put a number on that goal, like
I think
would
what
you
you're
have said,
saying
you know
is
what?
he earned everything he's made last night.
But I would have said,
no
hey,
doubt
if
in
you were
that.
going, if you can guarantee me the game-winning goal in Game 6, I'd give you $2 million.
Well,
you'd
MLSE
pay a
would,
fortune.
MLSE will say, we'll give you, because think of the home. They just got a guaranteed 2 home dates, right? Like that's.
Well, that's another way of putting it. But
Right?
I think fans, you start a GoFundMe. Like, you go up to Steven Lorentz and say, if you score a game winner in Game 7 against Florida, we'll find $100 million cash for you, Christy Pitts. We will go fund me all the way to a point where there will be duffel bags waiting for you.
That's the next one. What's that one worth? The game clinching, the goal, like series clinching goal against the Florida Panthers.
It's worth a lot, man. It is worth a lot, and we will get to that throughout the afternoon. It sounds as if Monday's going to be Game 1. Nothing guaranteed yet. Chris Johnston indicating that that's where the league is leaning. But, again, it's not confirmed yet in terms of what's going to happen. We know the game will be in Toronto. But you're right about, now that the dust settles and you can look back. And the beauty of the playoffs is you just live in by every shift and every game. And you recalibrate how you feel and where you think things are going to go. But now that it's over, you can look back and you realize the Leafs checked, a lot of boxes that everyone knew were going to have to be checked. Right? Like, Stolarz was going to have to play well. I thought he played well. Like, I didn't think he got overly tested, right? It wasn't like he ever faced 40 or 50 shots, but I thought he played well. And now he's off and running. Now his feet are wet in the playoffs. I think the way the core 4 stepped up, to their credit, last night, they needed that game. Like, Matthews had to score. Willie had to score. They all put up points. In the end, I think the 4 of them combined for 29 points in the series. So you look at that, you're like, check. And then what else did we talk about for years? Well, if the core 4 is going to show up and you're going to get some goaltending, you're going to need some other guys to supply moments.
Right.
Domi in Game 2, Benoit in Game 3, Pacioretty in Game 6, Lawton with that block shot in Game 6. And then you also look at it last night. Who played the most even strength minutes? Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo played more 5-on-5 than anybody on the ice last night for the Leafs. So, just contributions from guys that you knew were going to have to be there. And in the end, I think the Leafs, again, should be happy about it. They deserved it. They earned it. And now you reset, and now you got the toughest test in the sport, and that's what's waiting for you. The reality is this is as tough as it gets. Florida Panthers, they absolutely dismantled Tampa. It's tough.
Yeah, Vasilevsky talked about the Panthers today. He said they're the best team in hockey, and what he said, the one thing that caught my attention was, he's like, they're the most consistent. They do the same thing every time. And he said they're the most consistent. And when you do that, you deserve all the luck. You earn all the luck. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. So it's like, that'll put you on notice. You'd have to be stupid not to understand that, like, one shift, one kind of brain dead play, one stupid giveaway, one dumb icing, it can be costly against those guys. They have it cooking right now, much like Tampa did when they marched to 3 straight finals, and they just know how to win, man. They know what to do, and they know how to get it done, and they'll make you pay for any kind of lapse.
Absolutely. I said last night they're like the Dodgers and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what they are. They don't get the same billing, but they have the same aura. They've been to 2 straight Cup finals.
Yeah.
They just
dummied Tampa.
They dummied Tampa. Beat them up and dummied them, and they moved on. So that's what you're facing here. But it doesn't mean like that team can be beat. Go talk to the Philadelphia Eagles. They walked into the Super Bowl and smacked Kansas City around. Yeah. I don't picture a scenario where the Leafs are going to smack them around, but I'm curious, how they intend on elevating beyond what they just did, because I think the game plan is going to have to be very similar. You have to check. You're going to have to block shots like crazy, right? You're going to have to get big moments. But it's going to get nastier because I think, as you look back and do a breakdown of the Battle of Ontario, it never got nasty.
No.
It never got crazy. It never turned into a track meet. Like you see some of the games last night, Colorado, Dallas, and Edmonton, LA, that just never happened. It never happened here. It was just always kind of a chess game and methodical and afraid to take a penalty and respectful, and which is fine. And I think that's what the Leafs wanted. And I think the Leafs, in the end, obviously, they're very.
They got that. They're comfortable.
They did what they're supposed to do.
They're comfortable in that. That's the one thing.
They're very comfortable in that. Exactly.
That's the one thing that Florida does is make you uncomfortable.
Right.
And that'll be the biggest challenge for the Leafs. Can you play through discomfort? Because I still laugh. I was telling somebody about your analogy where the guys at school looking through the glass. The bully is going, who wants to come out and play?
You guys want to come out and play? Because we're out here.
It's the Leafs that are coming out.
Well, that's
the Leafs
right.
are on their way out.
They're on their way out, and they're going to go to the Hill and see how things unfold. And, they got to give them – listen, they're going to have a game plan, and they're going to have to elevate in certain areas. And so will Florida. Florida-Tampa is different because those teams, they have a hated rivalry. Like, that's a hated. Brandon Hagel, I don't know if you heard his comments this afternoon or was that this morning.
Yep.
But, I mean, he's disappointed that, Ekblad, he felt that was over the line to attempt to injure. And this is a guy who knocked Barkov out.
Well, exactly. That would be Ekblad's answer. Well, what were you trying to do to Barkov?
But that's.
When you do that, when you give that to Barkov, I don't even know if you can make the comment.
Yeah.
But again, there's a heated passion rivalry there. But Florida plays a certain way, and you either conform with it, or you've got to find a way around it and get them uncomfortable, or in some form of that. But they're going to make you uncomfortable. And looking today, you've got Reinhart and Barkov. Those are Selke finalists. Like that's deep as far as really good two-way checkers and stuff like that. I look back at I covered that final series there for SportsCenter, and. Barkov and Reinhart and those guys, they did a number on McDavid and Draisaitl, in that series. Like, they were really, really heavy and tough. It was like skating in mud out there. So that's
Jamie, let me ask you this. How do you get to them? If you saw one thing where you're like, that's the one thing for the Florida Panthers, that's how you get to them.
Okay, so the one thing that I would notice, and this is where maybe the Leafs are built a little bit differently this year than previous years, is they do have some guys who will push back. Like, Pacioretty's not going to drop the gloves and fight. He will if he wants to, but he's a physical guy and can stand up. Like, I would think that the Panthers are going to impose their physical will. There's guys on the Leafs that can handle the physical will and give it back.
But what's the counter to it? I'm talking the Leafs towards the Panthers.
Well,
if the Panthers are going to try to overwhelm the Toronto Maple Leafs physically, what's their counterattack? Is it simply speed and skill and making them pay?
Well, they have that too. You can beat them at their own game, or you can, if you play whistle to whistle and you draw penalties. Like, this is where special teams. This is where we just talked about the difference between the moments with Ottawa and Toronto. A missed opportunity, a missed play here, a missed assignment, and the team takes advantage of it. That's what's going to be here. It might be a game of inches. It might be. the difference in, it might be 2-2 deep in the third period, and somebody makes a mistake, and one guy on either team, a difference maker, makes them pay. That's I see this as a hard-fought deep series. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I would think the same thing. I think even if you look back on the series from a couple of years ago, it was just like the Leafs just got smothered, and they didn't get blown out. Like that's not really what Florida does. They don't win 7-1, 7-2. It's generally they just buy their time and they look for you and they lean on you. And then the difference is because you've got three guys for Florida here that are a three-pack of villains, and Marchand's at the top, and he's only played like 10 games for them. He's at the top for Leaf fans, in my opinion. I'd be curious to see how people react to that. Maybe we can throw that poll up. But it's Marchand, Tkachuk, and Sam Bennett. Like, those are the three guys Ekblad will play a little bit tough. I don't think he's that tough, though. I don't think Ekblad scares people. He's big. He'll, he got his elbow up or his forearm up or whatever. Seth Jones isn't a big, scary guy. Their defense is just really sound and really good. But those three, Marchand, Tkachuk, and Bennett, they're going to be looking for action. And I would counter the Leafs, like what you asked, though. Like, I guess you need like Lawton, Domi, and another guy, but you're not attacking them necessarily. It's if you get a lick on Verhaeghe, you've got to bury him. You've got to bury him. And if you get a lick on Barkov, you've got to bury him because they're going to try to do that to Matthews and Marner and Nylander. You know it's coming. Like they're going right at those guys, and they're going to attack and attack and attack. And if you attack back at Matthew Tkachuk, he loves it. He wants that. Brad Marchand wants you to come back at him. He's waiting for that. It's easier said than done, and it's been a game plan that other teams have tried to apply, and it hasn't worked. But I think it's Reinhart, Barkov, Verhaeghe, guys like that, you got to go out and just say, we're going to try to destroy you every time we can. Jake McCabe, every chance you get. Carlo, every chance you get. Ekman-Larsson can play heavy. Benoit, if you can do it, do it. Because those guys, they play kind of like Marner and Matthews. And, they're bigger and heavier, but they're not nasty and mean. So that's going to be the chess game. But you also can't get dragged into looking for brawls and fights.
No, Florida just has too many of those guys.
They got too many of those guys.
Mikkola on the back end, he's a monster. And
you got to find something, though. You guys remember that series the Panthers had against Carolina? It was like Matthew Tkachuk he just did whatever he wanted. He was slapping people in the face and scoring goals. It's like you got to have something. I agree that punch in the face scrums aren't to anybody's advantage on the Maple Leaf side, but you just got to show that you're not going to get run around. That's it. You got to have a lot of pushback.
Yeah, and I think you'll get that from, again, the majority of the lineup. It's the star players. That's going to be the question again.
And a guy that can lead the charge, Brian, I think, is 34. You saw it last night. If he wants to take a run at somebody and really inflict some pain, like you get that cool look. Any of those defensemen, like just seek and destroy.
Absolutely.
That guy could be the biggest physical force up front for the Maple Leafs.
He's just not. He's wired more like Barkov. That's the unfortunate part.
But you see that Barkov in the playoffs, Jamie. He sometimes goes in the behind the net or in the corner, and he's going to kill you.
I understand. It's just, like you say, there's certain guys, like you were talking, Hayes, about the three-pack. At the top for me is Matthew Tkachuk because he's a number one player. Mm-hmm. He's a flat-out number. Like Marchand was that 8 years ago. Like Marchand was their best player against Tampa in Game 5. I will say he was flying, and he looked great. But Marchand was brought there in a support role. He's brought there as a supporting cast guy, not to be the main factor. Matthew Tkachuk is the main factor. You said it yesterday. That the fortunes of that organization might have changed with that acquisition because that team looks different with him there.
And you know what's crazy about it? Not hardly anybody wanted it. I bet you they put up their hands. Who wants to do this deal? Not a lot of people said yeah. And Billy Zito pulled the trigger on it.
Well, I mean, it's a brilliant deal. And listen, you're not going to match Tkachuk. We just went through it with Brady, who's a different player. Like Brady's more of an honest guy that he'll run through you and he'll bury you. And if you want to fight, you're in trouble. But Tkachuk, Matthew, is looking to agitate. He's going to punch Marner in the face the first second he can. The best way to counter is you got to play your game. You got to play the four best games you've ever played. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Yep. If you're Matthews and Marner, you've got to score, you got to contribute, you got to be wizards on the power play, you got to kill penalties. Like they did all that during the Ottawa series. You got to do it plus, 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 because this is as tough as it gets, but ultimately this is what you knew was coming. Like, if you're going to make it to the second round, you're going to play a team like this. It was either Florida or Tampa.
Yeah.
It is Florida. And it's a great opportunity for them that they've earned because they won the division and they just won a series to shut a lot of people up. Like, you didn't shut everyone up against Ottawa. You shut almost everyone up. And I'm not building this up to be a cup final. It's not. But if you can beat this team, that is a real feather in your cap, man. Like, it's a real statement.
Yeah.
This is the statement. This series right here.
We're pumping them up. I mean, they're a really good hockey team. But if the Toronto Maple Leafs, who also have some real quality players, if they dig down and find something that they haven't found before, they'll have a chance to win.
Yes.
Like, there's no question.
Of course.
But they got to do it every single shift, every night they play against this team because of what we just talked about. Vasilevsky talking about consistency. In the neutral zone, they have this defensive type checking. They will pinch you off, squeeze you off every time. And if you think it's a stupid little play into the middle, that's where they're going to prey on you. It's just, you got to dig.
Yeah.
I was just talking down the street when I had some lunch. I'm like, they got to dig down and find something they've never found before. And if the series is over and they say, well, you know, like, shame on them if they don't know that. Like, that's what's at stake. Find your best hockey for the 2 weeks, and that's your only option to beat these guys.
I think they do. And
they better.
Here's the other thing, too. Okay, so there's only, one series left to be sorted out, correct?
2.
I'm sorry, yeah, 2.
We're waiting for the Central Division.
Yes, you're
Four
right.
Teams are...
Yeah, Winnipeg, St. Louis, Dallas, Colorado. So if I'll go around the table here. In my opinion, one cup contender is now gone. That's the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else?
I didn't think LA
right.
could get to 16 wins.
So,
I didn't see
so,
that.
I thought LA was a contender, but after watching them play in that series, I don't know if they really were. I don't know what the hell happened to them.
Credit
that
to
one
Edmonton,
not get out, Byfield place, like, just ripped their soul out.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I mean, they keep referencing it.
In the end, like, it's a goalie challenge, but Edmonton's allowed to wake up and get going too.
And they did.
So they did.
To their credit.
So in Tampa's off the board.
Yes.
That's it. In my opinion, I thought there was about 9 teams out of the 16 that were legit. So Tampa's off the board. One of Dallas or Colorado is going to be off the board, and I don't know if St. Louis was in that conversation.
I don't think so, personally.
But Winnipeg is. Now,
Yes.
Winnipeg's got to find a way to do it. But
I'm putting St. Louis in.
Okay, so the point being is now, regardless of who you're going to play in the second round or third round or fourth round, those are all like deeper cup contending teams.
Yes.
So that's ultimately my focus is, like, yes, the first round there were some great matchups, there was some great hockey. We got one Game 7, potentially a second if Winnipeg doesn't get the job done tonight.
Right.
But not as deep of series. Like, I would have thought, again, I was wrong, but I thought that Tampa, Florida was going to be a 7-game bloodbath. It was still a bloodbath, but it was just 5. That's the difference,
right? And Florida's through, and Vegas took care of business, and Edmonton took care of business last night, and the Leafs, obviously. So, yeah, you're right. You've got Toronto, Florida, Washington, Carolina, all serious teams.
Yep.
The 1 and 2 seed, or I guess Florida was a 3 seed, but no wild cards.
They get the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. Like, they are who they are. They're the favorites.
Yes.
And that's they'd be the favorites against any team they were going to play. I truly believe that. Neutral site, I don't care who they play. Vegas, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Dallas, it doesn't matter. Florida is going to be the favorite, and they deserve that. And then Vegas Edmonton is going to be an outstanding series. Unbelievable. And you could have any combination of Winnipeg, I think Winnipeg in particular, but Winnipeg or St. Louis up against Dallas and Colorado. You're right. I mean, you're looking at 8 teams. Let's say it's Winnipeg, Dallas.
Yeah.
You got 8 teams where you could spin it any which way.
Make an argument for all 8.
Any combination.
That's my point.
That's the beauty of it, and that's the way it should be.
You laid it out as the toughest test. It is going to be. Regardless of who you're facing, this is going to be the toughest test. And I'm excited to get it going. I'm glad that I hope it's Monday or whatever. Like, let's get this
Sounds
going.
like
but also,
it, yeah. I'm glad it's not tomorrow, though.
Well, that's what I was thinking, too. Like, what you can't have the first round still going and the second round playing. Like, I think the league does it right here. It is, let's get this all finished first, this first round, get the seeding, and then you get going. And
well, we got 1 Game 7 tomorrow, Colorado, Dallas. If St. Louis wins tonight, we'll have St. Louis, Winnipeg Sunday. That's a great weekend. Like Game 7 standalone Saturday, Game 7 standalone Sunday into the second round on Monday. I'm all for that. All right, we've got Mike Johnson coming up today. Bill Lindsay will join us. We'll start, again, turning the page. It happens quick. Looking ahead to the Florida Panthers and what is in front of the Maple Leafs here. I've got a list as well of 5 people within the Leaf organization that would benefit the most from beating the Florida Panthers. I got a little 5-pack for you today. Okay, we're going to get to that. We're going to get out in front of it, right? We're getting out in front of this immediately and continue to look back on the Battle of Ontario where, for Leaf fans, it worked out again. That's 5-0, in the last 25 years, and keep looking ahead to where Ottawa takes it from here as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, on Twitter at Overdrive 1050, we have a poll up very early asking which Panther player is the biggest villain for the Maple Leafs. Matthew Tkachuk in the lead right now. Brad Marchand is right behind him.
There's not another one, is there?
Sam Bennett would be another guy that could definitely – he'll get his nose dirty. You can. No,
I mean, there's not another – how many Tkachuks? There's not another one in the Metro. Is there? That's enough. You go through one, you get to another one, and then if you go through, imagine there was a third one waiting.
Rick
Tkachuk with a mustache and a beard.
Yeah, it's honestly like the Kumite, and you just keep running into the Tkachuk brothers.
Yeah. The third one's a defenseman, 6'6", and nasty and cross-check. It would just be the worst Tkachuk of all.
We have to create a third Tkachuk. Yeah. What would he be like? You know what I mean?
Telling you, he would be a D-man. Just he would be Chris Pronger, but meaner and nastier than Pronger.
Jacob Middleton's mustache from
definitely.
Minnesota.
Well, that's like the Stahl brothers, right? You got the 2 centers and then the big defenseman.
Mark,
the third one's got to be a defenseman.
Yeah,
for sure. We'll track that poll throughout the day, and you look at it, Duke. You just sent the stats. We've talked a lot about the core 4, and deservedly so, as we should. I mean, I don't think anyone expects any more out of their best players in Toronto than any other fan base does of their best players. Like, no one in Florida is like, man, that fourth line better be great. It's the best players. You got to step up. Yeah. And to their credit, I thought they played well, Game 5 notwithstanding, but I thought they played really well throughout the series. And in 2024 against the Bruins in the first round, they collectively had 12 points. Now, a little bit misleading because Willie missed the first few games, and then Matthews missed a couple of games. But 12 points total through 7 against Boston. This year, 29 points total through 6 games against Ottawa. That's what has to continue. You got to keep going. You got to keep racking up points and playing well and defending well and killing penalties and winning at the face-off dot and all those little details. And to their credit, they did that.
Hayes, I think you're talking about the Florida Panthers and the way they play and the way they defend and their goaltending. We're going to be talking about, if I can predict this thing appropriately, every night we're going to be talking about a couple of moments. If I were to guess right, these are going to be 2-1, 3-2 hockey games. So, we're not talking about guys going nuts and having 3 goals and 2 assists. If they do, that's great, but it's highly unlikely. We're talking about you get an opportunity to score, you got to make it count. Because they're just not going to be available.
Yeah.
And the Maple Leafs have done a great job. And I give Berube a lot of credit. Obviously, the way they defend, and there's been stretches in the games where you're looking at the shot clock. I don't know if many people pay attention to that, but long stretches, and you're like, God, these Sens haven't got a shot in 10 minutes. So they've done a really good job at that. But we're going to be talking about a few key moments and who's going to be the team that capitalizes on it.
I agree, and I think what the Leafs did very well, and I would assume this is driven home by Craig Berube, and we keep talking about his composure and his general attitude towards things, is they bounced back from moments that I think in the past could have been very backbreaking for them. Like you mentioned, they committed to really pushing Ottawa on the outside. Remember Game 2, I think it was Gaudette, the first shot on net, he tips in the third, and it goes in. All of a sudden you're going to overtime. But they found a way to win that game. Game 3, the same thing. I believe David Perron had the first registered shot of the third period. Goes in. Look at last night. That Perron goal, that could have. That's a story you're talking about. Can you believe that guy just scored behind the goal line? How does that happen? Only the Leafs. Only they could find. And they didn't allow that to be a story. Now you can laugh about it.
Right.
It doesn't. It's not a story because 2 minutes later, Max Pacioretty scores and the game's over. And the guy who can really laugh about it is Stolarz. And why don't we play this audio after the game where Anthony Stolarz was asked about like what happened there? How did Perron find a way to score from below the goal line?
Yeah, it just goes in and it happens, It's one of those things. You got a little horny on the poke check, so, it's, you live and you learn, and that's, it's the life of a goaltender. You kind of just flush it out of your mind because, like I said, you got that next shot's coming, and, that's a more important one than the last one that just went in.
That might be the first time I've ever heard a goaltender describing being a little anxious as horny on the poke check.
Well, you can see what he's
clip
trying
that
to do.
forever.
Yeah, we love that one.
You can see what he was trying to do. He's going paddle down because there was a body in front. He's trying to take that pass away and goes off the back of his mask. He was right. He was trying to get a little horny, but he was he's anticipating a pass.
I got to tell you though, when that one went in, I was like,
yeah.
I'm not in a good headspace right now.
No, that was not comfortable.
I was like,
that was
okay,
not comforting.
It was just the same. It kind of felt like the Flyers in Boston. The Flyers were down 3-Cobb in the series, and then they were down 3-Cobb in Game 7, and they came back and won. And it had that vibe to it where it's like, okay, you guys got up 2-0, and now it's really got to be 2-2. Like, does it really have to be that way? Mm-hmm. For a split second, our boy Donnie Nichols and myself, we went to a dark place. And we came back after the Pacioretty goal.
Spinning of back and forth over the course of this series. After Game 3, everyone's like, they're so comfortable. I've never been more confident. Then Perron scores in Game 6, and people are thinking, here we go. It's over. Done. Don't even
Isn't it crazy
Game 7.
some of the message you got from, established, grown people?
Yeah.
From
That's
Game
the beauty
3
of being
to
a fan.
Game – I know. From
That's why you
Game
stick
3
with
to
it.
Game 6, it's like – after Game 3, I love this team a lot different. Love the composure, love the coach. And after Game 6,
yeah, trade everyone, get rid of it all.
Same guys, hate them all. I can't do this. Same team, knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, that's the.
They
came back last night, though. They came back.
I have the same conversations, but they're in my house.
Oh yeah,
because you get people that are fans, and they're just the roller coasters are just all over. They're going to lose now. I'm like. It's tied. What are you talking about?
This new series coming up, Jamie, will bring new highs and lows, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Game 1 is so important, man. You cannot overstate taking advantage of home ice and getting on the board.
Do you think the Sens want that Game 1 back where there was just a toss away?
Absolutely.
Where it's like, take 6-2. Can't do it. Can't have it.
You can't have it. You can't wade into anything. You got to show up. You got to be on your toes. You got to be ready. You got to be ready to play. All right, Mike Johnson coming up in about a half an hour. I've got a 5-pack, the 5 members of the Leaf organization that would benefit the most from beating the Florida Panthers if they can get past the Panthers in the next round. We'll get to that. We'll recap again the game last night. Edmonton winning last night. Game 6 in St. Louis tonight. Big game tonight. Jays, they've won 2 in a row. Vladdy's red hot. Everything's all good in Toronto, man. The sports scene here, you can't beat it. Everything's positive on a Friday. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Mike Johnson coming up a little bit later this afternoon. We'll start looking ahead to Game 6 tonight as well, of course. We got St. Louis looking to survive against Winnipeg. And now that we know there's going to be at least a couple more home games for the Leafs, don't forget, TSN 1050 is giving away tickets to every Leaf playoff home game. And all you have to do is listen to us on the iHeartRadio app for your chance to win them. To enter, download the iHeartRadio app, create an account, listen to TSN 1050 for at least 15 minutes straight. You can enter twice per day, so listen to First Up and Overdrive. And the more you listen, the more chance you have of winning. All right, so I've got a 5-pack here I'll get to momentarily. I will say I thought, there's a lot of positives that come out of it. I think for both teams, if you're Ottawa, listen, you wanted to make the playoffs, you accomplished that. You won a couple of games. I thought Stützle was unreal last night. I thought he looked great. Tkachuk, the city, clearly, they love him. I mean, they were cheering his name before they were cheering the rest of the team last night after they lost. It was pretty
They have a
incredible
love
to
affair
see.
with that guy that's few and far between with any player, any
Very
captain
unique,
in
man.
the whole league, man.
Yeah, very, very unique. Like, it's very clearly him first, and then everyone else is fighting for second, as it probably should be, as considering how he plays and what he's done, and he's the captain, and he says the right things. He shows emotion, and that's stuff that people are looking for. But I thought, from a Leaf perspective, Brad Treliving, can put his feet up after that round, and job's not done, but Stolarz was good. Berube was good. Scott Lawton took some heat the way he played down the stretch, but man, did he show up and play well. I thought Ekman Larsson was great. You know, there a lot of the new players really factored in greatly to what happened over the last 2 weeks.
You know who I thought was kind of an unsung hero, Hayes, for the series was a guy that I was questioning even going into the series was Simon Benoit. Like, he was trusted in some pretty I think he was out there with a minute left on the ice.
Yeah,
like
big time.
on the clock.
Yeah.
Like, he was one of the guys out there with Carlo.
Yeah, the two of them, like, again, I said, Carlo played more even-strength minutes than anybody last night.
Yeah.
Like, he played a lot last night, Brandon Carlo. More so than Tanev, more so than McCabe. So, yeah, it was, you know, those are all, Tanev was very good. I mean, you can go on and on and on, but these are all turnover players.
Yes.
You know, they're all guys that have arrived in the last 12 months and clearly played a role in what just happened and will have to continue moving forward.
It chipped in. Like you said, everybody that was brought in played a role. It might have not been the most sexy of roles, but it was effective. And that's what you need to do outside of just going, hey, we need 4 guys to do whatever. Like, you needed supporting cast. And the thing is if you're the Leafs, there's guys that still have more. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You need
I agree,
other players.
Jamie.
You need other players to maintain. And, you know, knock on wood, like, they made it through for the most part. Again, I'm not in the room, but sure, there's ice bags, but it looks like they're a full roster.
That's big, man. That
It's
is
very
big.
big. Like, you see the list of injuries coming out of Tampa, you know, out of other teams that are you know, still in it and battling, and guys aren't available and all that type. I mean, look at the Winnipeg Jets. Mark Scheifele, number 1 centerman, not available to them tonight, right? Like, that type of stuff. You do need health, and that way it's not asking players to punch above their weight for extended lengths of time. And I think we could have this is a positive show, but you could have a 5 or 6 pack of guys that go, that guy's got more, that guy's got more, that guy's got more. Mm-hmm. So, and it's not a negative thing. It's just going, hey, this is a positive thing where you've got an opportunity still to, you know, to contribute in a meaningful way. That's
right,
the way
you
I
got
look
through
at
the
it.
first round with
Right.
that being considered.
Correct.
And there's other guys where it's like you're going to be challenged way more in the next round.
Right.
Like you had a good series, good for you. You played well. You battled the next one. It's going to be that much more difficult.
Oilers just did it. They bought each other time. McDavid and Draisaitl bought Nugent Hopkins time to chip in. You know what I mean? Like, they took
Kane and
control.
Frederick
Yeah,
and those
you're right.
guys.
you guys, we bought you some time. Next game, you show up. It's all about buying each other time. I thought
Yep.
it was fantastic by the Oilers.
That was very. I mean, they won 4 in a row. Like, to their credit, when they came
Dude,
home after
reverse sweep, are you
2-0,
kidding
reverse
me?
sweep.
Oh.
And it wasn't a game of perfect. I don't know if you guys stayed up to watch
That was
that.
the craziest.
It was insane
2-2, 4 minutes into the game.
and egregious errors. Not like, you know,
I know.
egregious
Giveaways.
errors, giveaways, breakaways. You're like, what the hell is going on? But, you know, in looking at it, Vasilevsky, Vezina finalist, gone. Kemper, Vezina finalist. Like, they got to Darcy Kemper.
That's right.
Kemper didn't he allowed 5 goals. I think there was a stat once all season long. He allowed 3 games in a row against Edmonton. Like, it was Edmonton, like, really poured it to him. But it was not a game of perfect. And even McDavid even said, like, they won the last 2 games. It wasn't the Draisaitl McDavid show. It was Connor Brown and
Right.
it's, you know, guys like farther down in the lineup that they were hoping for. RNH guys like that chipped in.
Darnell Nurse, big goal last night.
Well, but Nurse was. You want to talk about case studies? Like, this guy was giving away goals and then scoring them.
Crazy.
Like,
I said earlier in I said after game 2 or 3, I said they should be studied. That pairing should be in a lab somewhere.
It was, but you know, I was happy for Darnell. You know him; he's a great guy. They're a great family. All of that type of stuff. But you know, this Matthias Janmark scored 2 goals this season.
Big time last night. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's like all of a sudden Edmonton's got some mojo, and you look at Vegas,
Yeah.
and you're like, you know, okay, you survived through Minnesota, even though they beat them in 6.
Yeah.
But you know, Aiden Hill's been a bit shaky. That hasn't been great either. I don't know what the goaltending's going to look. It could be a similar kind of crazy, wild series.
I think it will be. This is a bad comparison just because Stolarz had a great season. But if you look at Calvin Pickard, journeyman guy, kind of getting an opportunity, it kind of mirrors a little bit. Again, Stolarz way better numbers, goals saved above expectation, getting a steady start stream where Pickard came down the stretch and was forced to play with an injury to Skinner and the inconsistency in that. But Pickard's a journeyman. He's a guy who just kind of grinds away. And
where is Skinner? Like, what's your mini Jerry's on Skinner showing up in the Vegas series?
I think he shows up.
70%.
Yeah,
really.
I agree. I think
Pickard is a game away from potentially turning into a pumpkin, and it's just being like, Shapley, that's it for me. And that's a goofy way to put it, but he might just get to a certain point where he'll look around and be like, "That's enough for me, guys. That's what I got
you
for
to
you."
the second round. That's
exactly.
Now
what
get lost.
The other thing too is though, you look at the way that the team plays differently in front of Pickard. That's the other thing that I pointed that out the other day. Like, I'll give you this. It's an unmade bed in there. He's aggressive, but I told you that. Mike Kelly had that stat of side-to-side saves. He made another unbelievable left pad save from side to side yesterday. Warren Foegele gets a breakaway early in the second period. Like, he gives them that save, whereas Skinner hasn't been giving them that timely save where it's needed, where it's not backbreaking, you're not chasing the game by 2 goals. That's the difference between Pickard and Skinner, because the numbers aren't glowing. Like save percentage, goals against, they're not glowing. But he is 4-0, and he's giving them the saves that they need. And the guys, like I told you the other day, they score in overtime. McDavid skates away from Draisaitl right to Pickard. Like, there's something there. I don't know what it is.
I agree with you, and listen, he's not alone. Like,
right.
Jake Ottinger faced a lot of pucks last night, but gave up a lot of goals in the end, and so did Blackwood. And, you look at all these goalies, like Kemper, like you mentioned, Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of these series are kind of getting crazy. Aiden Hill, again, his numbers are not very good.
Right.
Based on conventional numbers, goals saved above, all that kind of stuff, but got the job done.
Yep.
Now, generally, as the series go on and on and on, they tighten up, generally speaking.
Yes.
The first round always is so crazy, and then people settle down or slow down or, run out of steam, and I'm curious, how that factors into what the Panthers are going to do here, where you saw Tampa, like in their third run to the Cup, they got to the Cup final, to their credit. They got challenged a couple times on the way there, got through in 7 or whatever, and then got to the Cup final. It was like, we're done. Like, we don't have anything left. We can't do it anymore after 3 straight years of going. I'm not anticipating that happens this series, but you got to think the Leafs, like you just mentioned, Noodles, like they got out of this unscathed. They're fully healthy. They have home ice. Florida's played a lot of hockey the last few years.
Yeah, but the one thing I will say that they've hidden well, like Tkachuk all of a sudden misses, they've rested these guys down the stretch. I remember having that conversation with Paul Maurice when they weren't playing well down the stretch, and he was like, he kind of cryptically was like, we're all right, we're fine, we know where we're going to be, and it was interesting because I thought they had some interesting roster, I guess, decisions down the stretch where it was like almost we're resting them because
like
we
load
know
management. They were down the stretch.
Exactly, like unique, management of the players right in front of our eyes. And
you could argue
off.
Edmonton did that.
Yes.
Edmonton was like, we're fine. We'll start in LA. We're totally comfortable with that. Like they did that. Like there were a bunch of, by all accounts, Draisaitl could have come back and McDavid a week early, and like, don't worry about it. We'll start on the road. We got no problem against this team.
Yeah.
And to their credit, they found a way to do it. And like, it's just, if you're the Kings, you're just thinking, really, like four times in a row, you just can't beat these guys. It's crushing considering they had it.
Really
had
good
that
team
opportunity.
too. LA was a hell of a team this year.
A really good team. And even Minnesota, same thing. Like Minnesota now, the first team in Big Four pro sports history to make the playoffs 8 of a possible 10 years and go out in the first round every single year.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
Crazy. Like you talk about the Leafs and you talk about these other stories and other situations and the Blue Jays and all that. Like Minnesota gets to the dance. It's basically a formality every single year.
Dude,
and they lose in the first round every single year.
Think of how hard and how proud you are to make the playoffs, and then how much we talk crap about Detroit and Buffalo. They get 10 extra days more than Buffalo and Detroit. So
right.
It's like,
for a decade.
Are you that cool that you stick around for 10 more days than those teams?
How pissed off have we been on this show 7 out of 9 years?
Definitely.
Right? Like
there's no question. You're pissed if you're in Minnesota.
You get there. Now, I will say it's different because Billy Guerin has had some some real big challenges, like through their own doing, the buyouts and stuff. Like I think Minnesota overachieved in a couple of years, whereas like I didn't see that as a playoff team, and all of a sudden they're a playoff
He's
team.
going to be Lloyd Christmas getting out of the Lamborghini this summer because those guys are off the books, and he is going to have a
money
suitcase full of cash.
Yes, he will.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Mike Johnson coming up in the next hour. I'll get to my 5-pack, looking ahead to the Leafs-Panthers series. Jay's in action tonight as well. Cleveland in town. We got NBA playoffs, Golden State looking to end Houston. The Knicks with a massive one last night. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.